Why saving money is a trap. Have you ever noticed something strange? Some people spend their entire lives saving money, yet they never become financially free. They skip vacations. They avoid restaurants. They drive the same car for decades. They proudly watch their savings account grow year after year. And yet, when retirement finally arrives, many discover a painful truth. They have money. But not enough. Not enough to keep up with rising prices. Not enough to stop worrying. Not enough to live the life they imagine. Now here's the unsettling part. At the same time, there are people who don't earn dramatically more than everyone else, yet somehow build wealth that seems almost impossible. They aren't always the smartest. They aren't always the hardest workers. Many didn't inherit fortunes. So what separates them? If saving money is supposed to be the key to financial security, why do so many lifelong savers still struggle while others quietly become wealthy? The answer has almost nothing to do with how much you save. And almost everything to do with what your money does after you save it. Because the biggest financial lesson most people never learn is this. Saving money protects your present. But building wealth requires preparing for the future. And those are two very different games. For generations, children have heard the same advice. Work hard. Spend less than you earn. Put money in the bank. It sounds responsible. It feels safe. And to be fair, saving money is incredibly important. Without savings, even a small emergency can become a financial disaster. A broken phone. A medical bill. A lost job. A car repair. An emergency fund creates breathing room when life becomes unpredictable. But somewhere along the way, many people began believing something that was never entirely true. They confused saving money with creating wealth. Those two ideas sound similar. But they lead to very different destinations. Imagine you're trying to cross a vast ocean. Saving money is like building a strong boat. It's necessary. Without it, you'll sink immediately. But a boat sitting safely in the harbor never reaches another continent. Eventually, you have to let it move. That is where wealth begins. And that's where this story takes an unexpected turn. Because the greatest threat to your savings isn't reckless spending. It's something far quieter. Something that works every single day. Even while you sleep. Imagine placing $100 inside a drawer. You lock it. No one touches it. 10 years later, you open the drawer. The money is still there. Every single dollar. At first glance, nothing has changed. But in reality, everything has. Because while the money stayed still, the world kept moving. Food became more expensive. Homes became more expensive. Education became more expensive. Healthcare became more expensive. Transportation became more expensive. That same $100 now buys less than it once could. Not because someone stole your money, but because time quietly reduced its purchasing power. This invisible force has shaped nearly every economy in history. It's called inflation. Most people think inflation simply means prices rise. But that's only half the story. The deeper truth is far more important. Inflation means money itself slowly loses buying power over time. And once you understand that, you begin to see why saving alone cannot create lasting wealth. Imagine trying to climb an escalator that's constantly moving downward. Standing still isn't enough. You have to keep climbing just to remain in the same place. Your finances work much the same way. If your money isn't growing faster than inflation over long periods, you're slowly moving backward. Even if your bank balance keeps increasing. That realization changes everything. Because suddenly the goal isn't simply saving more. It's making your savings work harder than inflation. And history offers a powerful lesson. There was a time when keeping money in a savings account made much more sense. Interest rates were often high enough to provide meaningful growth. For many families, saving in the bank wasn't just safe. It was rewarding. But economies evolved. Interest rates changed. Markets changed. Technology changed. Opportunities changed. Yet millions of people never changed the way they thought about money. They continued playing yesterday's financial game in today's economy. And that's a mistake many don't recognize until decades have passed. Think about two neighbors. Both earn similar incomes. Both live in similar homes. Both save diligently. The first neighbor places every extra dollar into a savings account and never touches it. The second builds an emergency fund first. Then gradually begins investing part of every paycheck into diversified assets designed for long-term growth. 10, 20, 30 years pass. Neither becomes rich overnight. Neither discovers a secret investment. Neither wins the lottery. Yet their financial futures begin drifting farther apart every year. Not because one worked harder, but because one understood something the other overlooked. Money can either sit, or it can work. And money that works often compounds. That's one of the most powerful ideas in finance. Compounding doesn't create dramatic results overnight. In fact, it's almost boring at first. Growth seems tiny. Progress feels invisible. Many people quit because nothing exciting appears to be happening. But beneath the surface, small gains begin generating their own gains. Those gains create even more gains. Over time, growth accelerates. Like a tiny snowball rolling downhill until it becomes impossible to stop. This is why time matters far more than perfect timing. Starting early often beats starting big. And that's where psychology quietly enters the picture. Because understanding money is one challenge. Understanding ourselves is another. Human beings naturally value today more than tomorrow. Behavioral scientists call this present bias. Our brains evolved to solve immediate problems. Not ones 30 years away. Thousands of years ago, that made perfect sense. If food was available today, eating it immediately increased your chances of survival. Waiting wasn't always wise. But the modern financial world rewards almost the opposite behavior. It rewards patience, consistency, delayed gratification. Imagine giving two children a choice. One cookie right now. Or two cookies if they wait 15 minutes. Some grab the first cookie instantly. Others wait. That simple experiment became famous because it revealed something remarkable. The ability to delay gratification often predicts better long-term outcomes across many areas of life. Money follows a similar pattern. Every dollar saved instead of impulsively spent creates future options. But every dollar invested wisely has the potential to create even greater opportunities. Here's where almost everyone gets it wrong. Many people think investing is only for the wealthy. In reality, consistent investing is one of the ways many people become wealthy in the first place. The wealthy don't simply earn money. They build systems that allow money to continue working even when they aren't. That's a completely different mindset. Instead of asking, "How much can I save?" they eventually begin asking, "How can every dollar I save become another employee working for me?" That single shift in thinking changes financial decisions for decades. But there's another invisible force that quietly prevents millions from making that shift. And unlike inflation, this one doesn't come from the economy. It comes from within us. The invisible enemy, why we keep spending more. That invisible force is called lifestyle inflation. And it's one of the biggest reasons saving money alone rarely leads to wealth. Imagine getting your first real paycheck. You celebrate by buying a better phone. A few years later, you get a promotion. Suddenly, the apartment feels too small. Then comes a newer car. Designer clothes. More expensive restaurants. A bigger television. More subscriptions. A vacation that costs twice as much as the last one. None of these purchases seem unreasonable on their own. In fact, they often feel like rewards you've earned. But together, they create something dangerous. Every increase in income is quickly matched by an increase in spending. You earn more. Yet somehow, your financial life barely changes. This is known as lifestyle inflation, and it happens so gradually that most people never notice it. The tragedy isn't that people enjoy nicer things. The tragedy is that their expenses grow just as fast as, or even faster than, their income. They mistake a higher standard of living for greater financial security. But they're not the same thing. A person earning $50,000 while spending $35,000 may be building more wealth than someone earning $150,000 while spending $145,000. Income creates potential. Behavior determines the outcome. And this is where saving money reaches its limit. Saving teaches restraint. But wealth requires intentional direction. Every dollar should have a job. Some dollars protect you. Others should grow for you. The deeper truth is that wealth isn't built by what you earn alone. It's built by the gap between what comes in, what goes out, and what continues working after you're finished with it. The trap of looking successful. Now consider another invisible force that shapes our financial decisions every day. Social comparison. Humans are wired to compare themselves with others. Long before social media existed, people judged their place in society by looking at the people around them. Today, that instinct has been amplified thousands of times. Every scroll reveals someone buying a luxury car. Someone moving into a dream home. Someone wearing expensive watches. Someone traveling to exotic destinations. What you don't see are the loans. The credit card balances. The financial stress. The sleepless nights. The second jobs. Or the years of saving and investing that may have quietly made those purchases possible. Our brains compare our everyday reality to everyone else's highlight reel. Psychologists call this status signaling. People often buy things not because they truly need them, but because those purchases communicate success. The irony is heartbreaking. Many people spend money they could have invested just to convince strangers they're doing well. Meanwhile, truly wealthy people often behave very differently. Many drive ordinary cars. Wear simple clothes. Live below their means. Not because they can't afford more, but because they understand a powerful principle. Real wealth is often invisible. Luxury is visible. The two are not the same. A luxury watch tells people you spent money. A diversified investment portfolio quietly builds freedom without asking for attention. That's why saving money isn't enough. If your savings eventually disappear into purchases designed to impress others, your financial future hasn't changed. You've simply delayed spending. The story of two friends. Imagine two friends graduating from university together. Both find similar jobs. Both earn similar salaries. Both promise themselves they'll become financially secure. The first friend believes the safest strategy is to save every extra dollar. His savings account grows steadily. He feels proud each time he checks the balance. The second friend also saves, but only until she has a solid emergency fund. Then she begins learning. She reads books about investing. She studies businesses. She learns about index funds. She discovers diversification. She makes mistakes. She learns from them. She invests consistently, even when the amount seems small. Years pass. Markets rise. Markets fall. Recessions create fear. News headlines predict disaster. Many people panic. She doesn't. Because she understands something important. The market has always experienced uncertainty. Yet over long periods, productive businesses continue creating value. She keeps investing. Not because she can predict tomorrow, but because she believes in decades, not headlines. Meanwhile, her friend keeps adding money to savings. His balance grows. But inflation quietly erodes its purchasing power. Neither notices the difference immediately. 10 years later, the gap begins to widen. 20 years later, it's impossible to ignore. The difference wasn't intelligence, or luck, or income. It was understanding the role of money. One saw money as something to protect. The other saw money as something that could also produce. Both were savers. Only one became an owner. That single difference changed the trajectory of their lives. Fear feels safe, until it becomes expensive. At first glance, avoiding risk seems like the responsible choice. After all, nobody wants to lose money. That fear is completely human. Behavioral economists call it loss aversion. Research has consistently shown that people tend to feel the pain of losing money more intensely than the pleasure of gaining the same amount. It's why many people leave money sitting idle for years. Doing nothing feels safer than making a mistake. But here's the paradox. Choosing not to invest is also a decision. And every financial decision has a cost. Money sitting still faces inflation. Opportunities pass. Time disappears. Compounding never begins. The greatest risk isn't always losing money. Sometimes it's allowing fear to prevent growth altogether. This doesn't mean taking reckless risks. It doesn't mean chasing get-rich-quick schemes. It doesn't mean gambling on the latest trend. In fact, history repeatedly shows that disciplined, diversified, long-term investing has generally outperformed emotional decision-making. The goal isn't excitement. The goal is consistency. Saving money gives you options. Investing those savings wisely gives those options the chance to multiply. And that realization changes the entire conversation. Because the real purpose of money was never simply to sit in an account. Its purpose is to create choices. Choices about where you live. Choices about how you spend your time. Choices about your family. Choices about your future. Financial freedom isn't measured by the number in your bank account. It's measured by the number of decisions you can make without fear controlling them. But even that isn't the deepest lesson. Because there's one mindset separating people who merely save money from those who build lasting wealth. And it has nothing to do with numbers. It has everything to do with identity. Your financial identity shapes your financial future. Imagine asking two people the exact same question. What would you do with an extra $1,000? The first person answers almost instantly. I'd finally buy the things I've been wanting. The second pauses. I'd ask how this money could create even more money. The difference isn't the amount. It's the identity behind the decision. Long before wealth appears in someone's bank account, it often begins in the way they see themselves. If you believe money is only something to earn and spend, every paycheck eventually disappears. If you believe money is a tool that can build more tools, every dollar becomes an opportunity. This is why two people with the same income can end up living completely different lives. Their habits are different because their identities are different. Psychologists have long observed that people naturally act in ways that are consistent with how they see themselves. Someone who identifies as bad with money often avoids learning about it. Someone who sees themselves as a long-term investor keeps making wise decisions even when no one is watching. Identity quietly shapes habits. Habits shape decisions. Decisions shape outcomes. And outcomes eventually become a person's financial reality. Saving money is a habit. Building wealth is an identity. That identity doesn't require millions of dollars. It begins with small, repeated choices. Every time you spend intentionally instead of emotionally. Every time you invest instead of consuming. Every time you choose long-term freedom over short-term excitement. You're reinforcing a new identity. Not someone who simply saves money. Someone who builds wealth. The world's wealthiest asset isn't cash. If you could travel back through history and ask the world's most successful entrepreneurs, inventors, and long-term investors how they built lasting wealth, you'd hear many different stories. Some started businesses. Some bought shares in productive companies. Some invested in real estate. Some created inventions that changed industries. Their paths were different. But they shared one important principle. They understood the difference between assets and expenses. An expense takes money out of your pocket. An asset has the potential to put money back into it. That sounds simple. But it's one of the most misunderstood ideas in personal finance. A brand new luxury car may feel like a symbol of success. But over time, it usually loses value while continuing to cost money to maintain. A productive business, on the other hand, can generate income for years. A diversified investment in businesses can grow as those businesses grow. A rental property may generate cash flow while potentially appreciating in value over time. Not every asset performs well. Not every investment succeeds. But the principle remains the same. Wealth is generally built by owning things that produce value, not only by collecting money. Saving gives you the ability to acquire those productive assets. Without savings, investing is difficult. But stopping at saving is like collecting seeds and never planting them. Seeds stored forever remain seeds. Seeds planted carefully have the potential to become forests. That's why saving money isn't enough. Saving prepares the opportunity. Ownership creates the possibility for growth. The opportunity cost no one can see. Now imagine two choices. You spend $500 today on something you'll barely remember in a year. Or you invest that same amount and allow it the chance to grow over decades. At first, the difference feels small. $500 doesn't seem life-changing. But hidden beneath every financial decision is something economists call opportunity cost. Opportunity cost isn't just what you spend. It's what you give up by choosing one option over another. Every purchase has two prices. The price you pay today, and the future growth you may never experience. This doesn't mean you should never enjoy life. Money is meant to improve your life, not imprison it. The goal isn't to eliminate joy. The goal is to become intentional. Ask yourself a simple question before making major purchases. Will my future self thank me for this decision? Sometimes the answer will be yes. Experiences with family, education, health, memories. These often provide lasting value. Other times, the purchase is little more than a moment of excitement. A week later, the feeling fades. The payment remains. Financially successful people aren't perfect. They simply become better at recognizing the difference between temporary pleasure and lasting value. That awareness compounds just as investments do. One decision at a time. The answer brings together everything we've uncovered so far. The complete picture, where saving ends and wealth begins. Let's return to the question we asked at the very beginning. If saving money is so important, why do so many lifelong savers never become financially free? By now, the answer is becoming clear. Saving money was never the finish line. It was the starting line. Think of building wealth like constructing a house. Savings are the foundation. Without a strong foundation, everything else is unstable. But no one calls a concrete slab a finished home. You still need walls, a roof, windows, electricity. The foundation is essential. It just isn't enough by itself. Your financial life works the same way. First, build an emergency fund so unexpected events don't force you into debt. Next, eliminate high-interest debt whenever possible, because it's one of the biggest obstacles to long-term wealth. Then begin investing consistently in productive assets that have the potential to grow over time. Keep learning. Increase your skills. Create additional sources of income if you can. Most importantly, give your investments something many people never do. Time. There is no secret shortcut. No magical investment. No perfect moment to begin. The people who quietly build wealth year after year usually aren't making dramatic moves. They're making disciplined ones. Again and again. Year after year. Decade after decade. That's the power of consistency. The greatest investment you'll ever make. Surprisingly, the most valuable investment isn't found in the stock market, or real estate, or even a successful business. It's yourself. Your ability to earn, to learn, to adapt, to solve problems, to communicate, to lead. Technology changes. Industries evolve. Entire careers disappear while new ones emerge. But knowledge travels with you. Skills can't be erased by inflation. Experience doesn't vanish during a market downturn. Every new skill increases your ability to create value. And people who create more value often earn more opportunities. That's why many financially successful people never stop learning. They read. They ask questions. They study mistakes. They improve one small step at a time. Because they understand something powerful. The greatest asset isn't money. It's the person capable of creating it. Saving money protects what you've already earned. Investing in yourself increases what you're capable of earning in the future. Together, they become a powerful combination. A future that begins with one decision. Imagine yourself 10 years from now. One version of you continues exactly as before. Saving what you can. Leaving it untouched. Hoping it will somehow be enough. Another version also saves. But learns. Invests carefully. Lives below their means. Avoids lifestyle inflation. Ignores the pressure to impress strangers. Thinks in decades instead of days. Neither version becomes wealthy overnight. Neither discovers a hidden secret. Neither escapes every financial challenge. But one wakes up each year with more choices than the year before. The other continues running harder just to stay in the same place. Those futures don't begin 10 years from now. They begin with the next financial decision you make. Because wealth isn't usually built through one extraordinary action. It's built through thousands of ordinary decisions repeated consistently. Every paycheck. Every purchase. Every investment. Every lesson. Every habit. That's how financial freedom quietly takes shape. Not in dramatic moments, but in disciplined ones. At the beginning of this documentary, we challenged a belief that millions of people have accepted without question. That saving money alone is enough. Now we can see the bigger picture. Saving is essential. Without savings, even small emergencies can become major setbacks. But saving alone cannot defeat inflation. It cannot harness the power of compounding. It cannot create ownership. It cannot produce financial freedom by itself. That's why the most financially successful people don't stop after saving. They give every saved dollar a purpose. Some dollars protect today's life. Others build tomorrow's opportunities. They understand opportunity cost. They resist emotional spending. They avoid lifestyle inflation. They focus on assets instead of appearances. They invest in themselves just as seriously as they invest in markets. Most importantly, they understand that money is not the goal. Freedom is. The freedom to choose where you work. The freedom to spend time with the people you love. The freedom to face unexpected challenges without fear. The freedom to build a life based on purpose instead of survival. And perhaps that's the greatest lesson of all. Saving money isn't enough. But it's the first courageous step towards something much greater. When combined with knowledge, patience, discipline, and wise investing, it becomes the foundation of a future that many people only dream about. The question is no longer whether saving matters. It absolutely does. The real question is this: what will you ask your savings to do for you? Will they simply sit and slowly lose value over time? Or will they become the seeds that grow into the life you've always imagined? The choice begins today. If this documentary changed the way you think about why saving money isn't enough, subscribe so you don't miss future documentaries designed to help you make smarter financial decisions and build lasting wealth. If someone in your life believes that simply saving is the entire financial plan, share this documentary with them. It could change the way they think about money for years to come. And I'd love to hear from you in the comments. What was the biggest lesson you learned from this documentary? Finally, if you're ready to take the next step in understanding how wealth is really built, watch the next documentary on your screen. It connects perfectly with everything you've learned today, and it might completely change the way you see money forever.